Welcome to P.P. Simmons Radio. Theatre for the mind. Food for the soul. Now, here's your host.
All right, folks, welcome to P.P. Simmons Radio for another installment of Ask Mike Zullo. Mike Zullo, the lead investigator for the cold case posse, Sheriff Arpaio Obama fraud investigation. He answers your questions, and of course, this broadcast is in response to the questions that have been left on our blog spot and our Facebook page and P.P. Simmons YouTube concerning this ongoing criminal investigation, primarily of the long-form birth certificate proffered by the White House, posted on the White House website some time back as the only identifying document of who Barack Obama might be. But as Mike Zullo and the cold case posse have determined, this document, this singular identifying document, the only one ever released by Barack Obama publicly, is a complete fabrication and forgery. It's a fraud. Somebody has committed a felony, somebody's committed a federal crime, and everything seems to point in and around into the White House. Mike Zullo, welcome to P.P. Simmons Radio.
Hey, Carl. How are you today?
I'm doing great. So, in other words, Mike, my introduction there, it is a 100% done deal that what they've offered as the only identifying document, it is a forgery, right? I mean, it's 100%, right?
I am thoroughly convinced it's a 100% forgery, and I think it is probably one of the most complete crime scenes ever left behind. Everything you need as far as evidence is contained within the document.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that you've just recently released a 207-point affidavit to the Alabama Supreme Court outlining a lot of your evidence, but I also understand that that really is just the tip of the iceberg and that you have pages more of evidence to prove this criminal case, correct?
Yes, we do. We've done an exhaustive investigation. It's still ongoing, and as fate would have it, every few months something else pops up.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get right down to two or three more questions, very important questions. One of them goes to the issue of the Social Security number. This is a famous issue. Barack Obama apparently is using a Social Security number that should be, by all rights, it appears, registered to a resident of Connecticut or somebody who at least has had a mailing address in Connecticut, etc. There are also allegations that he may have used or have several Social Security numbers attached to his name from records, buying houses, etc. Also understanding that some of these Social Security numbers have connections to other people who are long since dead, which, if that's true, there are other federal crimes involved. And so a lot of people have been leaving questions to you about the cold case posse. Have you looked into the Social Security issue? Is this a part of your case at all? What say you, Mike Zullo?
Well, we are painfully aware of the Social Security issue. It is something that early on in the investigation, even in our press conferences early on, we did not focus on intently. The Social Security issue is going to be a very difficult investigative lead to pursue. It is something that has to go beyond, for our purposes as law enforcement, go way beyond just computer runs of Social Security information that perhaps is cross-linking numbers to addresses or whatnot. You have to go beyond that, and you have to prove that there truly is a connection there. And to do that would be extremely time-consuming at this point and extremely expensive to do. And we are not set up to pursue something to that magnitude right now. Going forward, we may look at that issue, but we felt the best thing for us to do, which was what we were asked to do in the beginning, was to look at the birth certificate document.
Right.
And I think that document, once it is finally adjudicated somewhere, proven to be what it is, I believe that opens up the door than to a lot of these other issues.
Yeah, well, in fact, I was going to use the same illustration. I was going to say, hypothetically, if a court, the Supreme Court of Alabama, for example, they may rule that as a matter of fact, in their understanding, the document is a complete forgery, and therefore he was not eligible to be on the ballot. Or, hypothetically, if there is a congressional investigation that gets opened in this matter of the fraudulent birth certificate, you're saying that once that has been settled, that, look, this thing is a fraud, then that opens up the question, number one, who did it? And number two, why would they feel that they needed to create that document for the President of the United States? And so if that happens, then what you're saying is that more than likely, let's say hypothetically it was a congressional investigation, more than likely the whole Social Security issue, the whole identification issue, that cat would be let out of the bag at that time.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. That's exactly what it would be. I mean, you're going to have a body that has the power to force the production of documents.
Right.
And that, to me, and I believe to Sheriff Arpaio, and I know you agree, Congress is the best avenue for that.
Yeah, the very best avenue. I mean, federal courts, grand juries, that would be nice. But what Sheriff Arpaio has said from the beginning, I believe, is that he really, really wants to get a congressional hearing, some type of congressional oversight. After all, that is the constitutional responsibility of Congress.
It is, and it's something we can see right here. Look at the IRS issue. How quick they got a committee together.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really nothing more than just that. Just get a committee together and let's start asking some questions.
Right. Okay. Now, let's move along with the questions because that kind of leads to what you just said. But let me ask you this question. I've seen this posted a couple places. Somebody has asked, what if Barack Obama came to Phoenix? In other words, put himself in your jurisdiction, because that's been a question. How come you guys haven't made an arrest? And you've been very intricate and explicit and careful to explain the matters of jurisdiction. But now people are asking, well, what if Barack Obama came to Phoenix and you knew he was in Phoenix? Would you go up to him and arrest the Barack Obama for a fraudulent birth certificate? What's your answer to that?
Absolutely not. Barack Obama, President of the United States, would be free to come and go in Phoenix as he sees fit. We would never take that kind of approach, especially with the sitting President of the United States.
Right.
We don't even have the ability at this point to do something like that, and we wouldn't. It goes back to mischaracterizations of the legal process that people may see on television that becomes a reference point in their minds, and they think that this is the way it works. It doesn't work like that. You are never going to get close enough to the President of the United States to do anything like that. If something like that were to occur, it would be done with paper.
Yeah.
And it would be summonses and whatnot, but you're not going to go over there and put bracelets on him. So that I understand how they can get that perception, but that is never going to happen.
Right. Well, I know that and you know that, but thank you so much for explaining it, because people, I know people are just so frustrated. They see the scandals and even the crimes that surround, or the potential crimes, the alleged crimes, let's go ahead and be legal here, that surround this administration and the White House, and people are just fed up and they want something done. And of course, you and I both know that the wheels of justice turn so slowly, and you just have to be patient and you have to do your due diligence, and you guys have been doing that. I mean, for 15 months you have been patient and you've been grinding along and you've been gathering evidence and continuing with the investigation. And you're right. If Barack Obama comes to Phoenix, there's no way that you or really anybody else is going to walk up and put handcuffs and say you're under arrest for forging your birth certificate document. That's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move along. So here, sometime back, you and I did a radio program wherein you said, look, in the next couple of weeks, you guys are going to see how wrong you have been. And you were talking basically to the Obama bots and all of the naysayers, the people who've been attacking you, saying that, well, you're not doing anything, nothing's happening, this isn't going anywhere, you're not moving along. Well, so what you said several days ago, you said, look, in a couple of weeks, you guys are going to see how wrong you you are. Well, amazingly, and I can't imagine, Mike, that anybody would take you out of context or misquote you, but
Yeah, okay.
but amazingly, now it's all over the internet that Mike Zullo said in 2 weeks a complaint is going to be filed, arrests are going to be made, but you didn't say any of that. So now we're 12 days or so away from the fulfillment of what you said. So first, tell us. We're going to tell the people what that kind of big announcement, we're going to give them a sneak peek as to what that 2-week deal is in a moment. But before we do that, tell the people about what it takes to file a complaint and whether or not that's where you're headed.
Well, first of all, to file a complaint, not only do you have to have a crime as defined by law, which we believe we do, but you also have to have a suspect. And on that, genre of a suspect, you have to have probable cause or beyond to believe that person has committed it. In other words, when that person is sitting down there by a computer, you have to have some kind of information that substantiates that they were there at that time and they created this or they created that. You have to have enough compelling evidence to accuse that person and believe in good faith that they committed this offense. So there's a very high level of evidence that needs to be submitted and presented before you go and file a complaint against anybody on anything. We are never going to file a complaint against anyone. It doesn't even have to be this particular subject. We're never going to file a complaint prematurely. We're never going to wildly accuse somebody of something if we don't have the evidence to put forth. And we are never going to file a complaint under compulsion or threat by anyone. It's just not going to happen. So to answer the question that's out there, is there going to be a complaint filed in 12 days? Let me put it all to rest for you now. The answer is no. We would never do something like that.
Right.
We will file, Sheriff Arpaio, if the time comes to take that action, he will be taking that action when he is good and ready and believes wholeheartedly that we can succeed.
Right. And you never, just to go on record, you nor Sheriff Arpaio have ever said that you were going to file a complaint, or in other words, seek immediate arrest charges on someone. What you have said is that you've conducted a criminal investigation, you have the evidence necessary, and what Sheriff Arpaio has said from the beginning is that what he would really like to see happen is the constitutional process of a congressional hearing, a congressional investigation, and then out of that may come impeachments or charges or whatever. But it's the Congress's constitutional duty to do that. And what you're trying to do is to move all of this towards the constitutional process, correct?
That's exactly what the sheriff said from the very beginning. I mean, if you go back to our 2 press conferences, you never heard the sheriff say, I promise to file a complaint. You never heard the sheriff say, I intend to file charges. You never heard anything like that. I don't know where this has come from, but it's a blatant lie. It's a falsehood. He has always maintained from the beginning, Congress needs to look into this.
Right.
And he understands the way the game is played. And that is the best place to put this, that we have the power to get the things that we can't get to. And that's where he's going. Now, does that mean we're not looking at other avenues? No, it does not mean that. But we are not filing a complaint.
Right.
And we will not file a complaint being threatened or harassed to do so. It's just never going to happen.
Right. Well, I think some of it is just misunderstanding on people's part. Some of it is purposed misinformation. And some of it is, as you just said, kind of a bullying attempt by the Obama bots to get you guys to do something stupid. But you guys are not going to do anything stupid. I mean, you're just not. You're going to follow the legal, constitutional, lawful process, correct?
Correct. And, in investigations unfold, and you know this, you've done them, they unfold slowly. They have their times of adrenaline pumped exhilaration, and then there's just lows where you wonder, my God, what am I doing? And then you get to this place where I've proven one part. I know I can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the document is a forgery.
Right.
Once you get past that, now you have to start to unfold the rest of the puzzle.
Right.
And it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of resources.
Right. And you guys have, and we can't give the specifics, but you have unfolded some other pieces of the puzzle, and that's what people need to understand, that you guys are continuing to work, you're continuing to investigate, and that's why we're trying to move this to a constitutional process. Now, let's get to the sneak peek of the big announcement, because you said several days back that in a couple of weeks, the naysayers would see how wrong they've been. Well, what was it they would be wrong about? Well, they were saying things like, this is going nowhere. You guys have stopped. You guys have stalled. You have nothing. The reason no complaint has been filed is because you have nothing. And what you said is that a lot is happening. You and I both have been talking about ever since we went to CPAC and Capitol Hill. VIPs, very important people. And when I say VIP, I mean people. Well, VIP means very important people. You know that, but I'm talking about people of influence, people of power, people of financial means, people of standing. I mean, constitutional standing to get things done in Congress or in courts or in state levels. So when I say VIP, I'm not talking about just curious people. I'm talking about people who can get something done. And what you were referring to, if I understand correctly, you correct me if I'm wrong, that in a couple of weeks, and now, as of this broadcast, just 10 or 12 days from now, you are getting ready to be in a big meeting of well-known, nationally known VIPs, and you have been asked to speak before this big meeting of nationally known VIPs to present your evidence, or at least everything you can present fairly publicly. Now, if these officials back your investigation, and we believe they will. I mean, the ones that have already gotten a sneak peek are just, they got it. But if this group, if these officials will back your investigation, this could be a huge, monumental shift in advancing this investigation towards this constitutional end. Am I correct in that?
You're correct with that, Carl. This could be a big thrust in moving forward. Part of the things that we've been having to combat is the internet flurry surrounding this topic. The bantering back and forth, the operatives that are working for the other side, putting out, misinformation, and we discussed that ad nauseum. It tends to damage the credibility.
Yeah.
And we've had to combat having all kinds of internet information swirling around there. People go on an internet site and they'll see the topic, and I just mean page after page of derogatory information, misrepresentations, half-truths, and outright lies. And human nature is it's always easier to believe the lie. You believe the lie because you want to believe the lie.
Right.
It makes it easier to dismiss the painstaking fact that you have to dig to get to the truth.
Right, right.
So you always believe a lie because you want to. You don't have to believe a lie, but you do it because you want to.
Right.
We've had to overcome that.
Right.
And even this last explosion that's been going on since last Friday, this doesn't help the cause.
Right.
We operate in a criminal arena. We don't operate in a civil arena. I've said this over and over again. We have to have our game stepped up. We have a higher evidentiary value to overcome. We have to make sure in what we present is accurate. We have to present it truthfully. I mean, we could be subject to perjury charges.
Right.
I mean, we're not playing a game. And this investigation is going on now over 20 months. I mean, there are people out there clamoring for the filing of a complaint that, to be kind, I really hate to go to this level, but to be honest with you, you're talking about people who in their professions were Hello Kitty salesmen.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact. And they're hammering as if they understand this process and they want a complaint filed. If you really understood the process, you would know how that looks.
Right.
To people that do understand the process.
Right.
And it makes people apprehensive. They don't want to get embroiled in this.
Right. Right.
So we are having to overcome that. And hopefully in this meeting that's going to take place, and I'm not going to give you the date or time, we may be successful in overcoming that to a large degree.
Yeah.
And these officials that I'm going to be before, have the ability to help us tremendously.
Yeah, they have the ability to really ratchet up the pressure to move this thing forward. They really do. And so this is huge. It's monumental. And, well, Mike, listen, as we wrap up this interview, I just want to make a couple more points and then you can comment to them. Number one, when this whole thing started, when Sheriff Arpaio put the cold case posse together to investigate that long-form birth certificate that was proffered by the White House, you guys literally and actually thought that you'd be able to clear the man in the White House within days. And to your surprise and to the entire investigative committee's surprise and to Sheriff Arpaio's surprise, the thing turned out to be an absolute forgery, and not only a forgery, but a very bad one. And I mean, a very easy one to determine. And so that's where the investigation launched forward from there. And secondly, all of this information that you've been giving in press conferences and what you've been doing on PP Simmons Radio and Freedom Friday Radio and other radio programs around the nation is really unprecedented in an investigation of this sort. Really, what most people would have done is 15 months of investigation, nobody would have heard anything until something constitutional happened. But you've been good enough to keep us posted and up to date on the details from the very beginning. And God bless you for that, Mike.
Well, thank you, Carl. You know, and I really want your listeners to understand that it is unprecedented what we're doing. I have to be very careful in what I disclose. I am trying to keep folks abreast as best I can. You know, we did go dark there for a while, and we had to. I couldn't continue with the media scrutiny that was going on. And you know what? I want to clear something up, Carl, if I can take an opportunity.
Sure, go ahead.
There was I believe it was the first press conference. We found out that there was going to be a media blackout, that there was going to be no national media. Now, I will tell you this. I did come to learn national media watched every second of that press conference.
Yeah.
So did the FBI. But I want to tell you that we knew there was a media blackout. We knew the tact was going to be to let this give birth and die in Arizona.
Right.
So a decision was made that aside from the press conference itself, we had to come out with another venue to try to get this information out there. An ebook was written by Jerome Corsi and myself.
Right.
And I've been accused that ebook was for money-making purposes, which I clearly stated the proceeds, which I think was something like 60 or 70 cents a copy, I tithe right to my church.
Right.
And I have the receipts to prove it.
Right.
I didn't make money on this book, and that was never the idea of this. Once you try to release an ebook, unbeknownst to me, it goes to a publisher, and then it becomes a business. And everybody does it for dollars. Well, I've also been accused in that ebook of harming this investigation by releasing information in book form. Well, let me clear this up for everybody right here, right now. We publicly did a press conference where I laid out, I think for an hour and a half, where we were in this investigation and what our investigation revealed. That was all public information that was already out there all over the web.
Right.
The ebook is nothing more than that press conference in written form.
Right.
That's all it is, to get it out there beyond the borders of Arizona. I don't care about that ebook. I am not an author.
Right. I was going to say the only reason you wrote it was because of the media blackout. So you were trying to get another venue of information. And as you said, you got a relatively small check. I forgot what it was around $1,500 or something, and you gave it to your church.
That's what I did with it. And there's nothing in that ebook that jeopardizes this investigation. We confirmed in that first press conference public information. That's what we were asked to do.
Yeah.
And then we took it beyond because we couldn't stop there. I could have easily stopped right there and said we fulfilled our obligation.
Right.
You know, the other thing, too, is this is a unique situation. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Posse works for Maricopa County. We donate our time to Maricopa County.
Right.
We've become the posse for the United States.
Right.
And that's that's a big burden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we have people from all over the country that are helping us, contribute to us, and they have given us input, and we've gleaned a lot of information from that input.
Yeah.
So I feel compelled and obligated, in a sense, to do my best to let them know we're not failing you.
Right.
And this is going to sound a little crass, but it's amazing to me. You can have a celebrity, or you could have a ball player, go to a soup kitchen on an afternoon and dole out, turkey sandwiches to the homeless. And the media will parade them around as if they are some kind of moral hero.
Right.
For an afternoon's worth of work.
Right.
And you have people doing what we're doing, which I think is for quite a noble cause.
Right.
And you're villainized.
Right. For the preservation of our constitutional republic and for the preservation of our Constitution and our complete way of life. That's what you're doing. That's the noble cause in which you're engaged. And you're right. There are a plethora of people out there villainizing you for it.
And you know what? So be it. I mean,
Yeah.
we can go back to the
That's
Bible.
right.
Look what happened there.
Well, that's right. Even our founding fathers. I mean, look at the freedoms and the greatness they handed to us, and every one of them were trash for what they did. But yet we've lived off of the benefits of their great sacrifices for years. So thank you, Mike Zullo, you, the Cold Case Posse, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, for staying in there with it, for hanging in there with it, for your sacrifice. You really have sacrificed. God bless you for that. Our prayers are with you, and once again, the big announcement, the sneak peek is that in less than 2 weeks now, there's a big meeting of nationally known VIPs before whom you will be a guest speaker. And when these officials back your investigation and back your play, this will be a monumental shift in the whole thing. And before long, I don't know if it'll happen that day, but before long, the media will have to take notice when these VIPs and others that have come forward start piling on this issue, kind of like the IRS scandal and the AP scandal. Once it became too big for the media to ignore, it was there. And we really believe that's what's going to happen here.
Well, I do believe that too, Carl. And, it's at PP Simmons that they're going to learn about it as soon as I can release it. If not, maybe that very day, if I find an opportunity to call you, we could release the results of that. That very day. I can't make that promise, but if not, it will be directly after.
Yes, okay. All right. Well, good deal. We'll look forward to that. Well, Mike, let's go ahead and wrap this interview up right now. Thank you so much again for your time. Again, we impose upon you a lot. You're very gracious to give us these updates and the clearing up of misinformation. This is really great. And God bless you. Our prayers are with you. Thank you so much, Mike Zullo. Well, folks,
thank you, Carl.
Yes, sir. Folks, you've been listening to PP Simmons Radio. Carl Gallups, your host. Stay tuned to this channel for more breaking news and information as it comes.